Okay, it is the 28th of March, 2019, the WIKISPEED Stand-Up, and take it away, Lauren.
This is Lauren Salter, Gabriel Island, British Columbia, Canada. This past week, as I remember, I did a kind of a stream of consciousness Python object-oriented program outline for the LRW, Little Red Wagon. And I read Michael's stand-up, and I sent Michael a promised article from Make Magazine, and I've just now sent him another article on the Maslow CNC, how to make one. So that's that. Coming week, more of the same, I guess. Blocks are still working on health stability, trying to solve problems in that sphere. Taxes, usual. And that's it for me.
There we go. Great, it's Michael Wolchuk in Saskatoon, who just got off the treadmill. Retrospective for the week, I got some work done on the Little Red Wagon remote control, posted a couple videos, got a powering problem solved with like $3 boost converter running off a little battery pack. So the Arduino is still powered from a separate power source compared to the battery pack that's powering the motors. I didn't want to try and filter all of that stuff, so $3 was a good solution. A little bit of progress on Wikifactory. So we now have the organization account, that's what it is. And we got a few links to see if we can emulate a few of the projects in terms of what forums are. The frequently asked questions is apparently quite important. So I'll give it a shot, and I'm going to make everybody an administrator who's joining the project, because there is more stuff in the Wikifactory than I can possibly explore myself. So if people want to try things out, it looks like they're backed up like daily. So if we need to recover something, it shouldn't be too hard. What else? My MakeSmith CNC, which is actually done by the same guys that do the Maslow CNC, is turning, but is not turning the way it's supposed to. So I've got some debugging to do and some code to change so that I can control each motor separately prior to actually letting the G code control it, because it's not doing what it's supposed to right now. Most of the CNC machines seem to be open loop, so you tell the stepper motor to move and you assume it got there. This one actually uses feedback to verify that it got there, so it can tell when something is wrong, although it doesn't seem to exit very nicely or show you that it's wrong very nicely. But maybe I'm just not doing something right. And I will have to start a page on what software I used and what steps I used to get there, because that seems to be fairly weak in general on the do-it-yourself CNC machines. It's not really a WIKISPEED project though. What else? Got some parts from the makerspace this week. Pin headers, that USB boost converter that I was talking about. USB or a DigiSpark Arduino clone that fits into your USB slot, and you program. It's only got 6 pins for inputs and outputs, but it's enough for doing little stuff. And that's about it, I guess. Next week, going to do a little bit of work, a little bit more work on the Wikifactory page, see what we can get going for the forums and the frequently asked questions. There's a few people that were invited to join, and if they join, I can't actually see what their name is, so you need to post your name in the thread so that I can invite you to be an administrator, or you can be a contributor if you want to be. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna make everybody an administrator to begin with. More code to do, like I said, troubleshooting on the MakeSmith CNC. More code to do on the Arduino for controlling the remote control truck. But we'll start with the structure or object. I think it's in Python, it's called an object. Create the structure, the data structure, to store all of the stuff that we want to configure, and get that sort of running in an emulator of some sort. Probably post some links on what I investigated and what I got running. I'll probably ask Lauren to send me a link to the, he said he had an emulator running on his tablet. No blocks, and if Lauren was back, I would get him to go on to retrospective, but he's not. Or is he? I can see the top of Lauren's head.
Yeah, I was on all the time, just
Oh, okay.
doing something. Just wanted the video off. Okay, so retrospective for me, I'm going to do a 5 for me, like 11 for the team, because there's just so much going on. Actually, but you know, we still that's down from 12 because we still are not getting a lot of people on the stand-up. And process improvement. Okay, I'm going to skip again this week, wait for more people. And so we're kind of stuck on that, getting more people on the call. Process improvement, and that's it for me.
Okay. Retrospective for me, I made 9 out of my 10 points for the week, but I showed up for stand-up, so I'm going to count 10. I'm going to stick with 8 for the group because we didn't get anybody more on stand-up. So, and I agree that the process improvement doesn't make a whole lot of sense when there's only 2 of us. So we have a couple more people that seem to be interested in looking at the Wikifactory page. So hopefully we get that fleshed out a little bit more for next week. And that brings us to crosstalk. Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. So first of all, so I saw I almost sent you the Maslow CNC article, just because I knew you're interested in CNC, but I thought, oh, all it does, it seems to be more 2-dimensional, but it can take a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and it has these, yeah. So but now that you mentioned it, I'm including that in or I'm sending that over to just for your information.
Yeah, I've actually been on their GitHub a fair bit. Version 0.6 is where they switched from the CNC that I've got to start playing around with the Maslow project. So I've been on their forum for a while.
So let me understand. So is the 2 designs they have, are they mostly 2-dimensional for like inscribing or like jigsawing things, not 3-dimension in terms of routing?
The original, the MakeSmith was what they called it, is a little 3-dimensional printer. Was made out of fiberboard, all CNC cut, laser cut, and you glued it together. They had some fairly decent instructions, and it uses magnetic encoders for feedback. So you put a little neodyne magnet on the end of the drive screw, and little chip mounted on a PC board is within 2 millimeters of it, and it reads angles within, like, it gives you 10-bit resolution on the angle, which is actually very good. It's supposed to keep up to very fast speeds, which, anyway, it's supposed to be quite good, but a little slow. But for a do-it-yourself project that's not very much money, I think the whole thing cost me $115 kind of thing.
Wow.
So.
And it's a router, or is it a printer?
It is a router. It doesn't include the router. You have to put in your own Dremel tool.
Mm-hmm.
But they have 6 or 7 different clamps for different types of routers, and they don't have a. They didn't include Mach 3 or anything to spoon feed the G code to the printer. They give you a couple of suggestions, but unfortunately, the project was done in 2014. They didn't actually ship until mid-2015 for me, and then I was already busy with playing with the electric car stuff, so I didn't get around to it. And they've moved on. They actually don't have the site anymore, and the forums are down for the MakeSmith.
Not so good.
Now the Maslow is quite interesting in that it is very large and very accurate for the size, and you don't have to build this humongous frame. It'll actually sit on the wall and kind of be out of the way for most of the time if you want it to be. So,
right.
And it just uses roller chain, and it's a gear reducer to something you get on AliExpress kind of thing. And then they just use roller chain. So if you want it to be 30 feet across, you can do that. It takes a lot of work to get the tensioning right and stuff, but guys have made it quite large, like larger than 8 feet.
And is it more of a 2D than a 3D than the other is a 3D?
It's more of a 2D. It doesn't have a Z-axis built into it.
Right.
Because basically right now the router goes onto this little sled, and the sled is pulled back and forth, up and down by 2 chains in the corners.
Right.
So there's really, besides the fact that there's a power cord hanging off the ceiling, there's really nothing on the carriage as such.
Okay.
But people have used it for some interesting stuff, stacking plywood together and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested in the a router. So that little router. Mm-hmm. Did you say that the parts are 3D printed, or they send you the parts?
The MakeSmith part, the old project, they did it for you. Well, they open sourced it. You can make it yourself, or they published a bill of material, or you could buy it from them, and that's what I did.
Right. It's not available anymore, you see?
No. You can still get the firmware. I downloaded it from their GitHub, but the forums are kind of gone. So the question and answers, all the accumulated knowledge of the forum, I can't find it anyway.
Yeah, right. And then my question is, what kind of materials it depends on your Dremel, what materials it handles, is that right?
It will do, it'll do aluminum. The problem is that it's made out of MDF, right? So you can't really liquid cool the bit, because the liquid gets onto the MDF and ruins it.
Okay.
So mostly it'll be foam, cardboard, plywood, MDF. Okay.
And in that space, in the time since 2014, has a lot of new stuff come on and new cheap stuff come along?
There's been a bunch of different projects on Kickstarter. Kickstarter's where I got it from.
Right.
But none of them seem to do anything with feedback. I liked this one because it had feedback.
Jeez, that's a big gap.
I'm a controls engineer, so the fact that you would do something complicated without feedback is just kind of really strange to me.
Yeah, cool. So okay, my other question is, did you look at my outline for the Python
Yes.
object-oriented thing? Yeah.
So that's essentially the beginnings of the data structure, right?
I'm just playing, but I kind of like how I was thinking. User, cargo, wagon, modes.
And those are just lists, so you can specify like user-specified lists. I believe are supported in Python. What did you use for your interpreter? You said you had one on your.
No, okay. So now, if you're interested in that, I abandoned trying to get anything on the tablet.
Okay.
I'm not. Basically, I see my wife is watching TV on the because the Linux computer is entertainment center too, so I don't have access.
Okay.
I bought a second tablet because she's watching the news in the living room all the time, in the kitchen all the time on the tablet. I have 2 tablets and 2 computers, so I have a Windows laptop. So I've had good luck with my Windows is snaky and terrible and crashes all the time. But if I only turn on VBox and set up a new Ubuntu, I got 16.04. I did that myself for the first time successfully on the. So I created a new. I already had VBox and I updated it, but I had my old. I had some Linux boxes in it, but then none of them work anymore. So I created a new one, 16.04, and Ubuntu 16.04 includes Python 3 standard. And it's like, and also I got idle. I don't know if I'm going to stick with idle because it's like some kind of a, idle is a, like an IDE for Python and maybe, I think it's for idle. And then there's a thing called IdleX extensions, which I downloaded. I can't get it to work because I want line numbers. If I'm programming, I want line numbers. And so far I can't. I don't have them.
Okay.
But so that's as far as I got. And then I was kind of thrashing around because I wanted to do a project that will let me exercise all the things I learned in the course. And by the way, another family member has finished the course. I'm very proud. One of my kids, who's not really a programmer, finished the Python course, which is fairly tough. Anyway, I want to exercise and use everything I've got. And I'm also on a quest to find a really good example of an object-oriented program. And I searched for an hour or two, and like everybody has either trivial programs. Well, supposing you want to say hello world. I mean, they're a little more than that, but not much. And so the examples are terrible. So ultimately, then I just started thinking about the LRW. So that's going to be my thing, and I'm going to maybe throw it out in some fora or something and see, does anybody else have a better object-oriented program? Because I know I sort of like the idea of it, but that's all. I haven't done it.
So for Python, for example, what environment are you going to test it in, or are you going to try and test it on hardware?
On hardware? Like so I'll have to get the Raspberry Pi. It'll be a Raspberry Pi.
Okay, but I mean, since the Raspberry is not going to be running any of the code and controlling any of the motors, it's basically going to be kind of like sending messages back and forth, right, to the Arduinos. So you don't really have to have an Arduino. You can run an emulator if you wanted to. Yeah. And as long as it has a graphical interface on it to kind of show you what it's doing, we should be able to come up with most of the code, because embedded programming is tough to troubleshoot. All you normally have is blinking lights and a little two-line LCD in order to debug and figure out what's going wrong.
Okay.
So if you have a test environment, it's probably a little easier to do.
So am I thinking right here? So there's
my opinion, anyway.
the program. The program I was testing on was just from a book, and two of the books I have mention Pygame. So it's a game. It's a library of gaming routines.
Okay.
And they can draw things or do a point of view thing or something. Well, yeah. So I think is that the kind of thing you're thinking of for an emulator?
As long as it runs your code and it does something with the output, it can just log it to a debug terminal.
Yeah. That was my next question. So does the things like Arduinos, can you have a log coming off it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So inside the Control Shift T or something like that, opens up a debug window that you can print to from the Arduino when you're connected to it. And of course, when you're not connected to it, it doesn't do a whole lot. But you can print using normal printf statements if you're familiar with the C processor. So %C for characters, %S for strings, /n for new line, that kind of stuff. You can print variables out and stuff like that. I think I have maybe an LCD, but I haven't really looked at the libraries yet. So I don't know how to use it to make it functional yet.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, if we can get to the point where you, let's say, open up a screen, click on a few buttons to say, yes, I want it to be in follow me or heal mode or whatever, and play around with a few of those variables and then have it, start up, go forward, go backward, do a couple of things, and you have a reasonable confidence that, yeah, it's going to do what I expect it to before we bother connecting it to the Arduino. If you know what I mean.
Don't exactly, but and so would I be kind of simulating the pin Arduino?
You would be simulating let's say, instead of turning a pin on, you'd say go forward.
Yeah, okay.
Print go forward, right?
Yeah, okay. So a high level.
High level.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so it has this turtle graphics, which is really easy. So yeah, so So
turtle graphics, if I remember, is pen up, pen down, go forward, turn right.
Yeah.
Actually, turtle graphics is very similar to what we're going to be sending to the Arduino to tell it what to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's something that would be, you're saying it's not necessary. I could just do a log, but the turtle graphics might be nice at some point to play with. Okay.
Cool. Well, especially if you're doing something that's moderately complicated, going forward and going back isn't hard, but once you start turning at a few degrees, you forget which way you're pointing.
Right. And then also on that mesh swarm of robots, I thought that because we're doing this all high level with just capabilities, so I could add something like a mode, a mesh mode or something like that.
Well, if we're going like the first one, we're not going to have with separate Arduinos, or at least it looks like we're not going to. But if we end up having a separate Arduino for each wheel, we're basically going to need a mesh just on the one machine, right?
Oh yeah, interesting. Really, that's a little bit like, it reminds me a little bit of Unix, anticipating that it could be machines all over the world, et cetera, so that, and when they first had built the first kind of internet, with two machines in UCLA and Northern California, they didn't, but they thought big and they planned, so they said, okay, so you could log into any machine anywhere. And so that's, I like that. So that if you're doing a mesh for 4, you can do a mesh for 40 LRWs eventually.
Yeah, and if we restrict the mesh so that only the Pi talks to its own Arduinos, and then the Pis talk together, then we don't have to worry about global addressing on the Arduinos, because that would be a pain.
Yeah, cool. Okay, that sounds really, really interesting. And I'm gonna catch up watching your videos, but your stand-up this week was outstanding, and it was really exciting. So,
Well,
go ahead.
The videos are slightly embarrassing because I'm learning as I'm going through, so I feel like a complete idiot every time I post one. But
it's getting out there. That's what a writer's workshop is for. you expose yourself, stop writing in your garret, and expose yourself to the hard knocks of the real world. And so that's what the support group's for.
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Did any progress on the receipt?
No, and that is I will right here add that to my number 1, and that and the reporting for the because we're getting even into tax season this year, so the reporting for the charitable. And geez, I was just reading something about charitable organizations, but anyway.
So no pressure, but 31st is my due date if we're going to get matching funds.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. That's thanks for the heads up on that. Appreciate it.
Okay. And we'll probably talk to you early, or we'll email back and forth, but I guess I won't talk to you till next.
Okay. Okay. Bye now.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.